Hello and welcome to another update video about Ethereum. We want to take a look at the weekly time frame today. Some of you have asked me if I could do the same because we took a look at the Bitcoin weekly time frame and long-term outlook 1 or 2 days ago. So I'm doing that for ETH as well. I will put this into the long-term video playlist. It gives you an idea where we are. So looking at this is my favorite weekly wave count. There is another interpretation I want to show you after this. This is one where I'm counting an impulse. Again, it's not a very reliable chart in the end. Ether is also like an altcoin, right? So all altcoin charts are typically a bit questionable. Ether probably has one of the best ones, but still also here there are many interpretations that could come into play. My favorite interpretation is an impulsive count where we had a wave 1, we had a wave 2, we have a wave 3, we have a wave 4, and now a very long wave 5. The reason why I don't like this count so much, but you know, there are not really many better counts, or there is no better count, which is why I prefer this at the moment. What don't like it so much is because the wave 5 is very much extended. Now crypto sometimes does that, okay? So if we look at Fibonacci levels, we have an initial 1-2 setup here, okay? And the wave 3 reached sort of here, reached the area just below the 1.38 extension. So also that's a small imperfection. I'd like to see it at least reach normally in an impulse the 1.38 extension, but it's also okay. Nothing invalidated, yeah. And then if we look at the depth of that wave 4 on the chart, it just briefly broke the 50% fib level. So there are slight imperfections in this count. Therefore, other interpretations are definitely valid and allowed, you could say. So here we are now dealing, however, with the fifth wave to the upside. And that's, again, a 1-2 setup. We had a third wave, a fourth wave. And this is actually all perfect, right? We have a wave 2 that did not go below the low of the wave 1. The wave 3 is long enough. And the wave 4 reached a 38.2 retracement on the weekly. Perfect, okay? So therefore, that is all good. And then we could be moving up now in the wave 5. So for a wave 5, you know, I'm looking for the area between 8K and 12K roughly. It could even go a little higher. I would not rule out that in a very bullish environment, Ether might reach higher extensions in the bull run. But I only see that in a very bullish environment. I would not rule out that we're also reaching areas around the 300% extension, the 3.382 and 3.618, possibly around 16.5K. Yeah, I've even done some work with different Fibonacci levels, and even the 400% extension shows some confluence that's all the way up to 18K. Now that is very, very bullish, and I don't necessarily, or I would not assume, I would not work with these targets. They are possible in a bullish environment, but I would first focus on the area between 8 to 12K, and that seems realistic. We are now here on the weekly chart in a wave 3 that can take us into that price region, okay? So that's all still okay. So even if Ether comes down again, you know, should this be, and that is an, you know, there are many ways of how this could play out still, you know, also from a bearish point of view. So should Ether, for example, dip back into that long-term support area here, look, it has still a lot of space in terms of support, even in a fourth wave. If I call that, for example, a diagonal, because let's be honest, this is a wave 5, so it can be an ending diagonal. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and maybe an A, B, C in a wave 4, and then we move higher. That's also possible that wave 4 will be down here. There is nothing bearish about this chart until below $390. Okay, that's important to understand. So that, just want to give you that idea on the weekly chart, a far less complex count than Bitcoin's long-term chart. And then we've got the alternative, which would be a diagonal pattern, also very bullish. Yeah, disregard the timeline, please. I just put the labels here so you can recognize it actually. This is a long-term diagonal wave count. In the end, this is actually even more bullish, but means that it's very choppy along the way. In this diagonal count, we completed an ABC structure initially in a wave 1, moved down in a wave 2. This is only the A wave of a larger degree third wave. Then we get a B wave down. That was the low in June 22. And we're now basically in a C wave of wave 3. It's just a different way of counting this. Minimum target for the wave 3. Difficult to say, and that's the problem with this count. I don't really have a very clear beginning. But I would say minimum expectation normally for a diagonal third wave the 1.236 extension. But see, that's why I don't like this count, and it's only my alternative, because you get to very ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous targets. So I'm not using that, okay? I'm not using that perspective. It's is it valid? Yes, okay, but it would at a very minimum require ETH to go to 200k. I mean, it could be a super long-term chart, right? But you know, without further evidence, it's a bit ridiculous. Not saying it couldn't get there in I don't know, decades. I don't know, depending on how the world is gonna develop. But yeah, no, they are moon targets that are completely unrealistic. Therefore, this is the alternative count. The only reason why I show you that is because I've seen a few people do this. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But that's not a valid diagonal. Well, it's valid technically if you use original Elliott Wave rules, but in crypto it works a little different. In crypto, I mean, or generally, you wanna rule out counts that are not realistic. Okay, there are some guidelines that tell you that, for example, you cannot assume that this is a third wave, even though technically valid as per original Elliott Wave rules, but you cannot assume it because you want a third, you know, a third wave wouldn't have even reached a 61.8 extension. That's just not realistic. Doesn't make sense. So we rule that out basically, yeah. But it's a plan B. But then the other count will be valid for a while. So yeah, again, this is the primary. And then looking at the daily chart, no change here. Yeah, we have this 1-2-1-2 setup. This is the low of June 22, and the price could now really be moving in this third wave. We see a reaction where we need to. I count this wave 1 as basically complete, watching for a potential wave 2 pullback. As I said, I have to repeat it also for new viewers. I don't say a pullback will happen, okay? This is not a target. This is simply support in a very bullish environment. And if this really is a third wave, pullbacks may be shallow. It is also technically possible the wave 2 already showed. The thing is, the trend is up, okay? The trend is up. We had enough pullback zones where positions could have been created. And now if pullback shows, great. If pullbacks show, but normally in a third wave, there isn't a great entry point unless you're a momentum trader who's watching the screen all day, okay? That's typically how it works. So the assumption is we are in a third wave. If pullbacks show, then it needs to hold 1675 to maintain the bullish perspective. This wave count just shows us that we should not be surprised if a pullback shows. And we know that if the price is coming down, we don't need to panic. It's likely just a wave 2. So, but this is the roadmap that can take us to that target up there, okay? Looking at the very short term, absolutely no change. Seems like some kind of a pullback is developing though. We've now only reached a 38.2 retracement. As I said to you, I can really only assume a wave 2 pullback is starting if we see a break at the very least below $2,220. Until then, there are many options here still for extensions. And I will not say the wave 2 has to happen because there are potentials where the wave 2 already happened. Yeah. And therefore, I'm saying I need some confirmation to really say that this wave 2 has started, because this wave 1 has reached all the targets, and also structurally it's basically full. Yeah, it can get one more extension higher, but I don't, you know, it's nothing I would assume. It's also possible this already happened. So we're basically towards the end of a cycle of this 5-wave cycle, wave 1. And therefore we are watching for signals that a pullback starts. Essentially, we want at this stage support levels to break to confirm that this wave 2 has started. On the daily time frame, it tells you, however, that above $2,530, we probably will only we will have to assume wave 2 happened already somewhere, and that we are in the third wave, in the third of a third wave, something more directly bullish, that no deep pullback will show anymore. That kind of makes sense from the perspective that we say, okay, we broke to new 2023 highs, and there's actually no structural resistance anymore along the way. So that's my update about Ether. Hope you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe. And if you really like the content, then please check out the channel membership. Also make sure that you follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And yeah, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.